Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents The Corner Bookstore, hosted by Red O'Loughlin. Step into a world where every story inspires. These pages come to life through the voices of authors from around the globe. Written by our global community of TV show hosts and best-selling authors, these works span genres, generations, and geographies, united by the power of storytelling. Discover your next favorite book and meet the minds behind the work. Thursdays, only on USA Global TV and Radio.
Howdy, y'all. Red O'Loughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And today is my first show. I do 3 shows every Thursday, back to back to back. This is the first one. And when I'm not doing TV shows, I'm a researcher. I delve into the human body at the cellular level. Chemically speaking, I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat symptoms, and you'll always be treating symptoms. And the cause could get worse. I write primarily in the health and wellness field, but more toward longevity and age-related disease. I have a new book coming up probably in the next 3, 4, 5 months, certainly before June, called Aging Sucks. I don't have a good subtitle for it yet, still working on it. Also working on several book covers. But I'm looking at aging and health and disease and all those things that create havoc at the end of our lives. And what can we do about it to not have that havoc? That's enough about me. Let's jump into our guest today. Trevor Harrison, Dr. Trevor Harrison, retired university professor of sociology, University of Lethbridge in Canada. And Doctor, please join me up here on stage.
Good morning, Red. Good to be here.
Trevor, always good to be here on TV. It's just one of those wonderful things in life. Just another wonderful day in paradise, so to say. Before we get into your books and things, I noticed in some of the background stuff I was looking at, you're saying travel was one of the things that you wanted to cover today. So do you do a lot of traveling, or have you done a lot of traveling?
I have actually. The book I brought out last year, actually, Tales This Side of the Elysian Fields, was very much a book about, before I began an academic career, as a young man, jobs I held in places I traveled, including to Europe and eventually traveling across the Middle East and what was called the hippie trail. So, and since then, in the last few years, I've done a lot of traveling again. My son and I actually, the last couple of years, have traveled to Southeast Asia, to Vietnam. I was there in November for 3.5 weeks. Travel is a wonderful education, and I encourage everybody to do it. We'd be a much better world if people were actually going out and meeting each other, face to face.
I totally agree. I got an invitation to Vietnam many, many years ago. with the military. Uh,
Mm.
and then I got off active duty, went in the reserves for 20 years. And then all of a sudden I got an invitation because the Berlin Wall fell. I went back
Hmm.
on active duty, and my last tour was I got an invitation to Bosnia. But I've been to over 5 dozen countries, and so I've had a chance to see a little bit of the world. And I totally agree with your summation. You see anything outside the United States, it is eye opening.
It breaks down stereotypes and which everybody's prone to falling into. But yeah, it's just and you come away with these wonderful stories as I've actually written and continue to write about. So yeah, I encourage all people to do that.
I try to learn the local vernacular for yes, no, please, thank you. Where's the bathroom? 2 beers, please. Uh, yeah. So
And and where can I sleep tonight? Yes. No, yeah. I mean, and actually, seriously, we can't all be totally fluent in different languages, but I do think it's appropriate to learn enough things that people feel that you are engaging with them on a real level. It's too easy for us, actually, in North America, of course, to assume the rest of the world speaks English, and it's just nice things to actually learn a certain amount of other languages.
many of the pilots that flew over Vietnam during the war had in their pack a thing called a pointy talkie. It was
Mm.
basically about a 2.5 foot silk neckerchief, but on it had like 40 different sections with local, in different languages, where it had English and then whatever the Vietnamese, for instance, and you could point at it, and they could see what you wanted. And
Yeah.
so I got to Taiwan, and the hotel I'm staying in down in the lobby has what I consider a postcard pointy talkie. And you look at it and it says, take me to the Clayson factory. And you show it to your driver, and that's where you go. And at the very end of the pointy talkie, it says, take me back to my hotel. And of course, the name's there. So
Hmm.
I thought, well,
Yeah.
that's why everything is over. So I get to Bangkok, no pointy talkies. So I buy a whole bunch of postcards, and I sit in the front seat of the taxi cab, and I flip through postcards. The guy shakes his head yes or no, and we take all the no's, go in my pocket, and all the yeses, and we head on out. And I had a postcard of the hotel I was at, and so I made my own pointy talkie with materials that were there. But yeah,
Hmm.
we assume a lot of people, and nowadays they do.
Yeah.
40, 50, 60 years ago, they did not.
Yeah, and of course you have all these. You can go to various apps now where you just kind of hold up your cell phone and it says "Hello, good day," and how do I get a beer here? And as you said,
Yeah, yeah, technology, it's amazing, isn't it?
yeah.
You've been obviously a professor there at the university, and you retired. But when did you actually first start writing?
Yeah, great question. I was already writing when I was a teenager, but I would write poetry, and fortunately, a lot of it's lost because it was probably really bad. Uh, but I was always writing things, short stories, and I was reading kind of interesting books even at that time. So. When I was traveling in my early 20s, I would keep really good notes, some of which I've gone back to again. And then when I got into an academic life, it's a different style of writing, but I also, in the back of my mind, kept writing, some kind of literary styles and whatnot. And so when I retired 2.5 years ago now, I fell back on some of my early thoughts about writing poetry, short stories. And to my own surprise, I've actually fallen back into this earlier form of writing again. So I had published a lot in terms of academic stuff, but to venture out to writing poetry again or short stories was a challenge, but it's been really enjoyable.
We talked backstage. You said you had a couple of your more recent poetry books, and I asked you to make sure we had them, hold them up so the audience can see them. And I also asked you to select a short passage that people could get an appreciation for your style of writing. So why don't you hold your books up so we can see the covers, and then
Sure.
we'll pick a section there and let you read it. Poetry
Sure.
Without Borders. Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the books, and it's a kind of reflective book in some ways, and uh, travels and people, and also about relationships with people, I think. The second book is this one, and it's a much more somber book, but then again, we live in kind of somber times. And this one, I would say, is a bit more analytical, almost like in my, except again, it's poetic, talking about the troubled times that we're in some ways. Uh, Very different kinds of books, but they came together very quickly for me, and they were enjoyable to write.
So like Hello Darkness, my old friend.
Yeah, kind of along that line. It's amazing how those songs seem more current today than they have in a long time. Yeah.
Why don't you pick a short section out of that? Well, we have plenty of time here at the front of the show. We don't miss this part out. And
Sure.
why don't you do a little quick reading for us?
Sure. I'm going to find one of them here. Just a second. I had actually picked the one I wanted to before. There it is. It's on page 41 of this book. And this is from Poetry Without Borders. Let me just turn to the page here. Uh, One of the tragedies, but the last many years, of course, Anthony Bourdain, that many people know from his shows. Interesting guy, again, interested in travel and other people. And of course, unfortunately, he suicided a few years ago. But I wrote this poem about him and about his life, and it's a melancholy aspect to it for sure. But I think people will get some sense of the book. It starts out with actually a quote from Anthony Bourdain himself in one of his final interviews, and it says, "To sit alone or with a few friends, half drunk under a full moon, you just understand how lucky you are. It's a story you can't tell. It's a story you almost by definition can't share. I've learned in real time to look at those things and realize I just had a really good moment." So when I read that quote, I thought, yeah, it'd be nice to get inside the mind of this very interesting cosmopolitan individual. So I wrote this poem then about his life. Hanoi to Hong Kong, Barcelona to Berlin, the long road stretched forever, but not home. He told others' tales, but not his own. No subterranean city depths ran so silent deep as the demon fears and loneliness that stalked his wake and sleep. No fine cuisine of lobster crepe or coq au vin or slow baked sole could satiate or give escape or fill the gaping hole. No bourbon, weed, or wine could drown his silent fears, could scurry off the Paris night of pained and haunted tears.
Very nicely done. Very nicely done. I'm not into poetry, but I appreciated that one a lot.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so you started writing poetry. That's kind of a different mindset as writing a how-to book or a romance or a novel or something else. So it's just that's the natural way your mind thinks about things, where you kind of juxtapose and tell a story with rhyme or whatever.
Yeah, and of course, not all poetry necessarily has to rhyme, but there's a way of writing poetry. One of the things I appreciate about the discipline of writing poetry is it forces you to not use wasted words. You can't kind of use superfluous things. You have to be really precise in what you're saying and concise in what you're saying and find the right word. And when I used to teach courses and I would talk to my students about writing papers, I would say, the English language has hundreds and hundreds of words out there. Your task is like you're going on a jungle search. Your task is to find the word or words that basically say what you want to say. And don't use other synonyms that don't work for you or whatever, or metaphors that don't work. So, in that sense, writing poetry is also a good lesson for writing other forms as well, including academic writing. Some people in academia are, I think, a little bit sloppy at times in their writing, and sloppy writing reflects sloppy thinking. So, yes, poetry is its own special area of writing, but there are some lessons you can learn right across of whether you're writing literary pieces or academic books or articles that are that pertain the lessons from poetry.
Is the term prose the word to use when it doesn't rhyme?
Yeah, I think that would be fitting, and at the same time, we have a lot of poetry nowadays that if it doesn't rhyme, maybe it uses half rhymes. It's more of a style, though, of actually getting to the kernel of the idea that you want to get across. I think that's the important thing with poetry.
Yeah, I did a little study on Dante's Inferno, not in Italian, but in Italian, it rhymes, but in
Yeah,
translation to English, you almost need an appendix to go with it to understand the context of the word's usage and time. And so
yeah.
that was a fairly difficult one to get through.
Yeah, and the art of translating things is itself people who do translations are have to be really, really good. I mean, as you said, they have to be able to express the context within something is written, and the meaning in one language doesn't just translate over one to one into another. So it's a real art form.
Okay, so you started writing. Tell us about your editing experiences.
Yeah, a lot of the books that I've edited over the years have been certainly in academia, and that again is a real knack to edit well. It's a bit, the old saying about herding cats. And almost anybody who's ever edited a book could probably overbe or tell some interesting stories about, you've worked with 10 authors who are supposed to present their chapters by X date. Nine of them come in, and then there's the 10th one that you wait on forever. And when they finally give you something, you find that it doesn't quite actually work. So you actually have to decide, do I keep working with them, or do we just, cut the ties right here or whatever? So, but a lot of the editing work I did was really in kind of academic stuff. There was one book I co-edited on education policy at one time. A lot of my work actually as a sociologist, I'm a political sociologist, so it was very political stuff about parties, constitutions, elections, revolutions, all kinds of really interesting stuff like that.
It's interesting because as a how-to book, it's fairly easy to see it. Uh, Something's wrong, tense, grammar, diction, whatever it may happen to be. But when you're in poetry, it's a different kind of mindset in order to edit that effectively. And I
Yeah.
can imagine, I know I could edit some things, but I wouldn't even attempt poetry. My mindset just, I can't grasp the nuances that are required to make that poetry make sense and be effective.
Yeah, and I think it pertains to poetry and any other kind of editing. One of the things I used to say about editing is that the role of the editor is like a musical conductor. And so you have all these people who are playing some instrument, as it were, and your task is to make the ensemble come together, right? So you don't have kind of some piece that doesn't seem to fit in the overall scheme of things. And so good editing seems to me in any field allows for a nice transition from one piece in the orchestra to another, and that really is your task. And I over the years, like I said, it's not easy, and I've seen some books that are incredibly really well done, and I've also seen some bad editing jobs, frankly, where the pieces seem discordant, and so that really is the task of an editor, I think.
We're approaching our 20-minute mark. I typically have a commercial break at about 20 minutes, and hopefully today we will. But at beforehand, we weren't quite sure. We'll see how it goes. So let's see if we can get to a commercial break. If we can, when we come back, I'd like to start talking about how do you market your books. If not, we'll just jump right into that. So let's see what happens here.
Sure.
Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? In a world quick to judge, one book dares to reveal the hidden cost of silence. Discover Holy but Harmful: The Silent Sin of Judgment, How Hidden Judgments Destroy Relationships and Damage Lives, by Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. The Amazon #1 bestseller that's transforming the way we understand ourselves and the way we see others. Pick up the companion workbook to uncover your own hidden judgments and learn how to break free from them. Available now on Amazon and at fine bookstores worldwide.
Brett O'Loughlin here. We're on the Corner Bookstore on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Today, my guest is Dr. Trevor Harrison. And Trevor is a retired university professor. Please join me back up here on stage, Trevor.
Happy to be here.
And beforehand, we were just talking a little bit about editing and the writing. And for most of us, writing is relatively a simple task, relatively speaking. Editing is a different dimension. Marketing is an intergalactic dimension because we don't even know how to spell marketing in many times. So tell us about your early marketing ventures when your first books.
That is just such a wonderful question. And I actually had occasion just recently to write a short little op-ed or blurb for someone about how that has changed over time. And there's a difference between, doing academic writing and, which quite often is set up in conferences and stuff. But the whole role of trying to disseminate, get your books out there has changed a good deal because of modern technology. So it used to be that you would go out there and you'd have this book and there might be a book launch and you're meeting with half a dozen people or so, and you're really hoping that you'll get a book review in a notable newspaper, magazine, whatever. And to some extent, that still exists. So there's kind of one-to-one meetings with people. And since I brought out these books, I've been doing some book launches. I do readings, say at bookstores and things. But you're only meeting actually a very small audience. And so one of the big changes with modern technology is shows like this one, where you are meeting a much bigger audience. People are from all over getting to meet with you. In the last year, I've been doing podcasts from South Africa. Did interesting one in Barcelona from people in Barcelona. I didn't get to go there. It's a wonderful city, but and also in London, England, other parts of United States and Canada. That's very different from before, and it is such a wonderful opportunity right now for writers to have the chance to meet a much bigger audience than before. So, like I said, I still do a lot of one-to-one stuff. I will, get on local radio and television and whatnot. But the chances now for an author to get have their voice amplified is much better than it was a few years ago, and I encourage all authors to really take advantage of that.
Okay, you had a couple books there earlier. You said these are recent ones. One from 2025. When was the other one done?
Well, these two books, the two books of poetry just came out actually this past December. And the other one, Tales of This Side of the Elysian Fields, came out late 2024, really 2025, early on. And it was that one where I've had a lot of publicity with people right outside of Canada and around the world, actually.
Do you find any one aspect of marketing to be more effective than others?
Yeah, again, a great question. I think in some ways the most interesting interviews I've done, and I think it actually broadens your audience a bit, is if you're not solely just talking about the book, uh, but you're talking actually really about yourself and your life and how you came to doing what you're doing, much like we've actually done here over the last few minutes. Because I think audiences want to get a sense of knowing the author. They want to get a sense of knowing this individual as a person. And so remaining within the narrow confines of here's the book, you should go out and buy it, isn't as effective, I think, as and or as much fun as being able to talk about your whole life. So, for example, we've talked about how I came to writing my current writing in my past life as an academic and my travels. That I think is actually a much more effective thing than the standard. We're just going to talk about the book today.
What's your view of AI in the role of being an author?
Yeah, I think it has both. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. It has real potentialities for authors. It is a useful thing for searching down facts and details, and I emphasize actually with that writers have to pay attention to detail because you actually have to convince the reader that you know what you're talking about, and detail helps that. Where there's and it could expand writers' capabilities if they at the same time pay attention to not just falling into the trap and borrowing what AI tells you to do. Uh, the real creative aspect of being a writer is to do something that is new and novel and outside the predominant norm. And we have to remember that actually what a lot of AI does is it redounds to the norm. It actually provides for you. This is the normative expression, the normative word you would expect, for example, to use next. The writer's task, the task of any creative person, is to break outside the norm that is being foisted on you. And so it can help you, but you shouldn't assume that AI is going to do all the work for you. You have to be aware of its limits.
I love the word you chose, foisted. It's not something we typically hear on radio or TV nowadays. But you have a series, short stories, autobiographical. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So again, that was the tales this side of the Elysian Fields. It starts out with a very short kind of bio about me growing up in a relatively small city in Canada, but then takes me into or takes the reader into jobs I held early on. Some of them really horrible jobs, but the good thing about horrible jobs is it convinces you you don't want to do it the rest of your life. Uh, and trips that I made when I was 20, for example, traveling to Spain, actually going to the Canary Islands for a while, going to Greece, a country I've been back to many, many times. I absolutely love Greece, and if I were not of Irish descent, I'm sure I would be Greek. And so that started me on kind of a path of travel and appreciating different places. But the book takes the reader into all kinds of places, people I met, jobs that I held. One of the stories actually in the book is when many years ago I had a very brief career for a week in a film that was being filmed in Israel, out in the around Jericho, and so I got to be one of the extras in this video, which was an exciting opportunity, except for the fact I actually got stabbed in the back of my calf by somebody who was supposed to be a Hittite soldier. But other than that, it was a good story.
Cover designs. How do you do? How do you work your covers?
Yeah, the both Tales This Side of the Elysian Fields and one of the recent poetry books, and I'll hold it up again here. This one right here, very interesting story about creativity. The other book was actually kind of generated just out of, you can Photoshop different paintings or pictures. That cover and the one from Tales This Side of the Elysian Fields was actually done by a colleague, a friend, who in retirement also took up painting. She had been a counselor, a career counselor for years, a personal counselor, family counselor, and she decided to take up painting. Well, she starts out very simply, and she has blossomed into an amazing artist. So when I was putting together both of these books, I said, you know, what have you got? Let's look at some of the things you've been doing. And lo and behold, I thought the theme of her paintings fit perfectly the theme of the books. And so I'm very proud of having a friend's paintings actually be the cover of a couple of books now. And it adds a kind of nice personal touch to bringing the books out.
Well, that's the first one of all the authors I've talked to. That's the first experience I've heard that way. So that's unique. Um, Audiobooks, do you have any of those?
I do not at this point, and I would not be adverse to doing it. In fact, I think that again is another wonderful way of finding expanding your audience. Years ago, I actually had thought of perhaps going into radio and television broadcasting. So maybe this is not too late. I can do it.
Uh, Less than a year ago, I believe, no more than a year ago, Amazon, KDP Amazon came out with the hardcover option, ebook, paperback. Then it became a hardcover book, given so many pages, 70 pages, whatever it was. Now I notice before Christmas, Thanksgiving, that they now have the audiobook option. But again, it's all AI. You pick the voice you want for whatever. I have not gone down that route, but it has a serious impact on my near term future, next 6 months, of choosing one or two books and testing the waters with that to see what's going to be there. Because it's a little different than hiring somebody, going through a number of different voices and things. So it's something I want to test drive, maybe not necessarily on my primary books, but at least to get experience in it and see what I can do. But that's what I'm looking at.
Very, very interesting, Red. Well, it'd be nice to talk with you at some point in future and see what your experience is with that. Because, yeah, that's, as I said, another way to meet with a lot of people.
And I certainly welcome you back. I'll tell you that again at the end of the show. Many of the authors that I've had on here, or editors, publishers, we always have a chance to reconnect again down the road. So another question on your books. Do you have any of your books in foreign languages, or do you have plans for any of your books in foreign languages?
They have not been translated to this point. And again, when you talk about expanding your readership, giving people the opportunity to read, I'd love to do that. I should say, actually, I have another book that is supposed to be coming out. It's been a rather long-suffering production. But I have a book actually about my travels across the, again, so-called hippie trail back in the mid-70s. It's supposed to be coming out sometime probably in the next month and a half. And it's one I think has the real potential to be translated. So that's something I will be pursuing with the publishers of that book and seeing if we can do that.
Well, I know a few years ago it was thousands of dollars, literally, depending on how many pages you had. And I talked with more than a couple people. However, again, within the last year, Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, who does a lot of I publish books for people as another business of mine. And they now have translators who have done, Spanish, English, Italian, English, Chinese, English, whatever it may happen to be. But they are fluent in both languages, so they know the nuances of the words.
Mm-hmm.
Their prices go by the word only. If you have 40,000 words, it's a flat fee, and that I really, and in fact, it's actually a very economical fee too when you get down and you look at it. Because I looked at a couple of my books, that might not be too bad in whatever language I want to consider it. So that might be something to throw in your back pocket also down the road, is that if it doesn't work out with your publishers, or it's not an economically feasible thing, or you have a short book that you may want to just test the waters in, might be something of value there.
Yeah, that's interesting, and of course it comes down to, and what publishers are interested in is, what is the topic? Is it something that expands out of kind of a local area or a linguistic area? to other people. And it seems like probably the work that you do would be very much of interest to people outside of the English language. So I can fully understand that. And the book that I'm going to be bringing out about traveling across the Middle East, the hippie trail, Afghanistan, and all that, is one I think that for a lot of people in those areas, or people who are teaching courses in Middle Eastern history, politics, probably would be very interested in other languages.
Did you, in all your travels, did you get a chance to actually live somewhere for more than a few months?
A couple of the travels I've done, I've been able to do that. One actually, fortunately, through my academic career, I lived and worked in Japan for 4 months on an exchange. That was quite wonderful. And I got out of that, I actually did bring out a book about Japan. And it was kind of a cultural, historical kind of thing. It also included some haiku poems, which was kind of fun to put into the book. I then also spent 4 months on a Fulbright chair, research chair, in and around Atlanta, Georgia, back in 2010, and that was a wonderful experience. Talk about the opportunity to meet with. Yeah, it's easy for everybody to have stereotypes here in Canada about the States or the southern part of the United States. To actually live there for 4 months and travel around old Civil War battlefields and talk with people about what was going on. And I traveled widely while I was spending my time there. And again, wonderful opportunity to be able to stay in one place for 4 months and soak up the local culture and peoples.
It's interesting because we as Americans don't think of America being a foreign country. Yeah, you from Canada, foreign country, you came down here, you spent a few months. And yeah, the translation is there. It's exactly right. The answer to the question, but not the same. It's juxtaposed in our brains just a little bit.
Well, one of the things actually has stayed with me as a lesson out of, particularly it struck me when I was in Japan, and it stayed with me ever since, is we very easily fall into just lumping together and saying, that's Japan, that's Canada, that's Germany, whatever. What I came to understand was that there was more than just one Japan. The part I was in was actually in Hokkaido in the north, very different from the mainland. And if I can say, actually, the United States in my travels there on many occasions, there are many United States,
Yeah.
right? That come together as the United States, just as there are many Canadas. Quebec is very different from, say, British Columbia, Alberta, etc. Every state that we assume is just one entity is made up of a whole bunch of sub-states, subgroups, societies, etc. And we lump them all together at our peril because we're not really understanding the people that are in those places.
Doctor, as we're wrapping up the show today, how do people find you as a speaker or when you're doing your next signings, or how do they get your books?
Yeah, all the books are on Amazon, so they can certainly find them there. They can contact me at the University of Lethbridge. I'm very easy to find. My email address is the same as it was when I was an academic, trevor.harrison at ULETH, that's short for University Lethbridge.ca. And very easy to find. And you can also search me out on Facebook. Shouldn't be that difficult to find me there as well. Always happy to meet with different people, converse with them about whatever. And always really happy to come on and talk with people about my writing, other people's writings, or whatever else that people want to talk about.
Okay, for our audio audience, Trevor, Trevor Harrison, Harrison at ULETH.ca.
That is it.
Trevor, I look forward to our next visit. I really enjoyed today.
And I too. So you take care, Red, and yeah, tell me how that audio opportunity comes about.
I certainly hope to be able to tell you that. So take care, and I'm going to go ahead and close out the show here just literally in the next few seconds. My next show is called The Wise Ones, a occurs literally in about 20 minutes, and I have another show after that called Talking Head. So please join me if you can. If not, catch me in the archives. Red O'Loughlin signing out. Bye now.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.